The vast emptiness of space was shattered by the thunderous roar of engines. Massive warships, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars, pushed through the inky blackness. This was the mighty fleet of the Zorigians, a race of conquerors who had set their sights on the peaceful Galactic Alliance. Admiral Zorn, leader of the Zorixian Armada, stood on the bridge of his flagship. His 4 eyes narrowed as he surveyed the battle unfolding before him. The Alliance's defenses were crumbling under the relentless assault of his forces. A cruel smile played across his lipless mouth. "Pathetic," he growled, his voice like gravel. "Is this all the Great Alliance can muster?" On the other side of the battlefield, panic gripped the hearts of the Alliance's defenders. Captain Lyra of the Centauri, her delicate antennae quivering with fear, watched as another of her ships erupted into a ball of flame. "We can't hold them back," she cried, her voice trembling. "Order a retreat. We must warn the rest of the Alliance." As the remnants of the defense fleet turned tail and fled, news of the Zorixian threat spread like wildfire across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes huddled around view screens, their faces pale with dread. In the Great Hall of Unity on the Alliance's capital world, representatives from 1,000 species argued and shouted. The chamber, usually a place of peaceful debate, now echoed with the sounds of fear and desperation. "We must unite our forces," bellowed Grak, the rock-like Petrosian delegate. "Stand and fight." "Fight," scoffed Zilx, the gelatinous Meborian. "Did you not see how easily they crushed our strongest fleet? We should sue for peace while we still can." As the arguments raged on, a small figure sat quietly in the corner, largely ignored by the others. Ambassador Chen of Earth listened intently, her dark eyes taking in every detail of the unfolding chaos. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. They had been slow and cautious in their expansion into space, a trait that had earned them a reputation for cowardice among the older races. Now, as the threat of annihilation loomed, few even remembered Earth's presence in the Alliance. Chen stood, clearing her throat. The noise in the chamber gradually died down as the other representatives noticed her. "Earth offers its full support to the Alliance," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We may not have the most advanced technology or the largest fleet, but we have faced extinction before. We know what it means to fight against impossible odds." A moment of silence followed her words, quickly broken by a bark of laughter from Grak. "You, the cowards of Earth," he sneered. "What could you possibly offer that would make a difference against the Zorigians?" Chen's expression remained neutral, but a fire burned in her eyes. "We offer something that seems to be in short supply right now," she replied. "Hope, and a willingness to stand and fight, no matter the odds." As murmurs rippled through the chamber, a message flashed across the main view screen. The Zorixian fleet had broken through the last line of defense. They would reach the core worlds of the Alliance within days. Panic erupted once more. Representatives rushed to evacuate, to flee to the far corners of the galaxy. But Chen stood her ground, tapping rapidly on her communication device. "Earth Prime," she said, her voice steady. "Initiate Operation Longshot. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do." As chaos reigned around her, a small smile played across Chen's lips. The Zorixians thought they were invincible. The Alliance thought humans were cowards. Both were about to learn how wrong they were. In the darkness of space, unnoticed by the retreating Alliance ships or the advancing Zorixian fleet, a small flotilla of Earth vessels slipped quietly into formation. Operation Longshot was underway, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of the very species it had long dismissed as cowards. The stage was set. The battle for survival had begun, and humanity was ready to step up. The news spread quickly across the stars. Earth, the planet of supposed cowards, had volunteered to lead the fight against the Zorixians. Reactions ranged from disbelief to outright mockery. On the Zorixian flagship, Admiral Zorn received the report with amusement. "Humans," he chuckled, his razor-sharp teeth glinting. Those timid creatures who barely left their own solar system. Let them come. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later. But while the Zoryxians laughed, the humans were busy. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the ruins of Old New York, General Sarah Connor stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Her weathered face was grim as she addressed the assembled military leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady, "we face an enemy that outguns us, outmaneuvers us, and thinks they've already won. But they've made one crucial mistake." She paused, a fierce gleam in her eyes. "They underestimate us." A murmur ran through the crowd. Connor continued, "Operation Longshot is now in effect. Our fleet is already in position, hidden in the debris field of the Arcturus battle. Phase 1 begins now." Across the room, Admiral Chen, the grizzled veteran of 100 space battles, spoke up. "With all due respect, General, our ships are outdated compared to the Zoryxian fleet. How can we possibly hope to defeat them?" Connor's lips curved into a wry smile. "We don't need to defeat them, Admiral. We just need to make them defeat themselves." As the human leaders discussed their daring plan, the Galactic Alliance was in chaos. On the capital world of Centauri Prime, the Alliance Council was in an uproar. "We cannot seriously be considering this," shouted Zilx, his gelatinous form quivering with indignation. "Trusting the fate of the galaxy to humans." Ambassador Chen stood calmly in the center of the storm. "We're not asking for your trust," she said quietly. "We're asking for a chance to fight for all of us." Grak, the Petrosian delegate, stomped forward. "And what exactly is this plan of yours?" he demanded. Chen's eyes twinkled. "It's quite simple, really. We're going to surrender." The chamber exploded into shouts of confusion and anger. Chen waited patiently for the noise to die down before continuing. "The Zoryxians see us as cowards," she explained. "So that's exactly what we'll give them. A complete, unconditional surrender of Earth." As understanding dawned on the faces around her, Chen laid out the audacious plan. A small fleet of outdated human ships would approach the Zoryxian Armada under a flag of truce, ostensibly to negotiate Earth's surrender. But hidden among them would be Earth's most advanced stealth ships, carrying elite teams of human special forces. While the Zoryxians are distracted by our surrender, Chen concluded, our teams will infiltrate their key facilities. We'll gather intelligence, sabotage their systems, and pave the way for a counterattack. Silence fell over the chamber as the Alliance representatives absorbed the audacity of the plan. It was risky, borderline suicidal, and completely unexpected. In short, it was utterly human. Slowly, Grak began to laugh. "By the crystal caves of Petros," he rumbled, "you humans are either the bravest or the most foolish species I've ever encountered." "Perhaps a bit of both," Chen replied with a smile. As the council debated, far above in orbit, the human fleet was already on the move. Captain Miguel Sanchez stood on the bridge of the HSS Trojan Horse, the flagship of Earth's surrender fleet. Around him, his crew worked with grim determination, fully aware of the dangers that lay ahead. "All ships report ready, Captain," his XO announced. Sanchez nodded, his dark eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. "Then let's go make history," he said quietly. "Helm, set course for the Zoryxian fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what cowards can do." As the ships jumped to light speed, a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. The humans, long dismissed as timid and weak, were about to prove that sometimes the most unexpected heroes are the ones who step up when all hope seems lost. The Zoryxians thought they faced a galaxy of cowering prey. They were about to learn the true meaning of human courage. The vastness of space seemed to hold its breath as the small fleet of human ships approached the massive Zoryxian Armada. On the bridge of the HSS Trojan Horse, Captain Sanchez stood tall, his face a mask of calm determination. "Zoryxian flagship hailing us, sir," reported his communications officer, her voice steady despite the tension. Sanchez nodded. On screen, the sneering face of Admiral Zorn filled the view screen, his 4 eyes gleaming with malicious amusement. "So, the cowardly humans come to beg for mercy," he growled. "How predictable." Sanchez bowed his head in a show of subservience. "Great Admiral," he said, his voice carefully modulated to sound meek, "we come to offer our unconditional surrender. Earth wishes to spare its people the horrors of war." Zorn's laughter boomed through the speakers. "Very well, little human. Prepare to be boarded. Your ships and your planet now belong to the Zorixian Empire." As the transmission cut off, Sanchez allowed himself a small smile. "And that's our cue," he murmured. "All teams, commence Operation Trojan Horse." Deep within the bowels of the Trojan Horse and its sister ships, hidden compartments hissed open. The elite squads of human special forces emerged, their adaptive camouflage suits shimmering as they activated. Lieutenant Aisha Khan led her team through the airlock, their magnetic boots allowing them to walk along the hull of the ship. "Remember," she whispered into her comm, "we're ghosts. We get in, we do our job, and we get out. The galaxy is counting on us." As the Zorixian boarding parties stormed the human ships, expecting to find cowering crews, they instead found empty corridors and automated systems. Meanwhile, the real action was taking place on their own vessels. Using cutting-edge stealth technology, the human teams slipped aboard the Zorixian ships. Their mission: sabotage, intelligence gathering, and sowing chaos behind enemy lines. On the Zorixian flagship, Lieutenant Khan and her squad made their way to the central computer core. Their adaptive suits mimicked the metallic walls perfectly, rendering them virtually invisible. "I've got a bad feeling about this," muttered Corporal Chen, the team's tech expert, as they reached the core. Khan shot him a look. "Save the movie quotes for after the mission, Chen. Get to work." As Chen began hacking into the Zorixian systems, Khan kept watch. The alien corridor was eerily quiet, broken only by the distant sounds of the boarding parties returning in confusion. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Intruder alert," boomed a voice in the harsh Zorixian language. "Unknown entities detected in Sector 7. "That's our cue to leave," Khan said calmly. "Chen, status." The corporal grinned as he pulled back from the console. "Virus uploaded, Lieutenant. Their systems will be chaos in about 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, the lights flickered and died, plunging the ship into darkness. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "Nice work," Khan said. "Now let's move." As they made their way back to their extraction point, they could hear the sounds of confusion and panic spreading through the Zorixian ranks. Ships across the fleet were reporting system failures, power outages, and inexplicable errors. Back on the Trojan Horse, Captain Sanchez watched with grim satisfaction as the mighty Zorixian fleet fell into disarray. "Phase 1 complete," he reported to Earth Command. Commencing Phase 2. The human ships, which the Zorixians had dismissed as primitive and harmless, suddenly came to life. Hidden weapon systems deployed, targeting the now vulnerable enemy vessels with unerring precision. Admiral Zorn, his bridge in chaos around him, stared in disbelief at the tactical display. "Impossible," he growled. "How could these cowards have deceived us so completely?" As if in answer, every screen on his ship suddenly displayed the same message, written in the flowing script of the Galactic Alliance. "The meek shall inherit the galaxy. Humanity sends its regards." Across the fleet, the human Special Forces teams made their escapes, leaving confusion and devastation in their wake. As they regrouped on their ships, Lieutenant Khan allowed herself a small smile. "Not bad for a bunch of cowards, huh?" she said to her team. Corporal Chen grinned back. "I've got a good feeling about this," he quipped. As the human fleet disengaged, leaving the Zorixians to grapple with their sabotaged systems, a new message spread across the galaxy. Humanity, long dismissed as timid and weak, had just dealt the first real blow against the invincible Zorixian armada. The war was far from over, But for the first time since the invasion began, a spark of hope flickered in the heart of the Galactic Alliance. The humans, it seemed, were full of surprises, and they were just getting started. The success of Operation Trojan Horse sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Zorigians, once thought invincible, had been outsmarted by the very species they had dismissed as cowards. But for the humans, this was just the beginning. In a secret bunker deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, General Sarah Connor stood before a holographic map of Zorixian-controlled space. Her eyes, sharp despite her years, scanned the glowing data points. "The enemy is in disarray," she said to the assembled war council. "Now is the time to press our advantage." Colonel Yuki, report on Operation Whisper. Colonel Hana Yuki, head of Earth's Psychological Warfare Division, stepped forward. Her usually stoic face bore a hint of a smile. "Operation Whisper is proceeding better than we could have hoped, General," she said. "Our agents have successfully planted the seeds of doubt throughout the Zorixian ranks. Rumors of human shapeshifters, invincible super soldiers, and planet-killing weapons are spreading like wildfire." Connor nodded approvingly. "Excellent. And the Zorixian leadership?" Yuki's smile grew, paranoid and divided. "Our latest intelligence suggests that Admiral Zorn has executed 3 of his top commanders, suspecting them of being human spies." A murmur of satisfaction ran through the room. Connor turned to her chief of intelligence, a wiry man known only as Ghost. "What about the captured Zorixian communication codes?" she asked. Ghost's eyes twinkled mischievously. "We're putting them to good use, General. Operation Babel is ready to launch on your command." Connor's lips curved into a rare smile. "Then by all means, Ghost, let's sow some chaos." Across Zorixian-controlled space, confusion suddenly erupted. Ships received contradictory orders, fleets were redirected to defend against non-existent threats, and supply lines found themselves rerouted to empty sectors of space. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Zorn raged at his subordinates. "How is this possible?" he roared, his 4 eyes blazing with fury. "Find me these human spies, or I'll have all your heads." But there were no spies to find. The humans, using the stolen communication codes, were orchestrating the symphony of misinformation from thousands of light-years away. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Alliance headquarters on Centauride Prime, Ambassador Chen watched the reports flood in with quiet satisfaction. Beside her, Grak the Petrosian shook his rocky head in amazement. "I must admit, Ambassador," he rumbled, "I had my doubts about your species. But this is beyond anything I could have imagined." Chen smiled. "We humans have a saying, Grak. The pen is mightier than the sword. In this case, information is our mightiest weapon." As they spoke, a new hologram flickered to life before them. It showed a Zorixian cruiser, adrift in space, its crew having abandoned ship after receiving false orders to evacuate. "Another victory for Operation Babel," Chen said softly. "And not a single shot fired." But even as the humans celebrated their successes, they knew the war was far from over. In a secure communication channel, General Connor spoke with Captain Sanchez, still deep in enemy territory with the Trojan Horse fleet. "The Zorixians are off balance, Captain," Connor said. "But they're also desperate, and a desperate enemy is the most dangerous kind." Sanchez nodded grimly. "Understood, General. We'll remain vigilant." "Any news on Operation Pandora?" Connor's face grew serious. "It's progressing, but slowly. The bioweapon is complex. Dr. Lakshmi says it could take weeks to perfect a strain that will incapacitate the Zorigians without harming other species." "Let's hope we have weeks," Sanchez replied. "The Zorixians may be in disarray, but their fleet is still vast. We can't keep this up forever." As if to underscore his words, alarms suddenly blared on the Trojan Horse. Sanchez's XO rushed to his side. "Captain, we're picking up a massive energy surge from the Zorixian homeworld. It looks like." "Sir, I think they're activating some kind of superweapon." Sanchez's eyes widened. He turned back to the hologram of General Connor. "Did you get that, General?" Connor nodded, her face grim. "We got it, Captain. It seems the Zorixians have decided to stop playing games. Get your fleet out of there. Now. We're moving to Phase 5. As the transmission cut off, Sanchez barked orders to his crew. The Trojan Horse and its sister ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a Zorixian empire in chaos. But even as they fled, the humans knew that the true test was yet to come. The Zorixians had been tricked, confused, and demoralized. Now, they would be angry. And as Earth prepared for the next phase of the war, one question hung in the air. What would happen when humanity's cleverness met the full, unleashed fury of the Zorixian war machine? The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the cowardly humans had one last trick up their sleeves. The galaxy held its breath as the Zorixian superweapon hummed to life. On planets across the Alliance, beings of all species huddled around view screens, fear etched on their faces. Was this the end? But in the war room of Earth's secret lunar base, General Sarah Connor allowed herself a small smile. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "Activate Operation Looking Glass." Across the room, Ghost nodded and tapped a series of commands into his console. Suddenly, thousands of small, mirror-like satellites blinked into existence around the Zorixian homeworld. On the bridge of the Zorixian flagship, Admiral Zorn watched with cruel satisfaction as the superweapon powered up. "At last," he growled, "we will crush these human vermin and all who stand with them." The weapon fired, a beam of unimaginable energy lancing out towards the nearest Alliance world. But instead of destruction, the beam struck one of the human satellites and vanished. Zorn's 4 eyes widened in shock. "What trickery is this?" he roared. Across the battlefield, Alliance ships watched in awe as the devastating energy of the Zorixian weapon was caught, reflected, and dispersed harmlessly into space by the network of human satellites. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Chen stood calmly as the other representatives erupted in cheers and disbelief. "How?" demanded Grak, the Petrosian delegate. "How did you know?" Chen's eyes twinkled. "We didn't, but we prepared for every possibility. That's the human way." Meanwhile, Captain Sanchez and the Trojan Horse fleet re-emerged from hyperspace, this time accompanied by Earth's entire battle fleet. Ships of all sizes and designs filled the void, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. "All ships, this is Captain Sanchez," he broadcast. "The Zorixians thought they had cornered us. They thought wrong. Today, we show them what happens when you back humans into a corner. All units, commence Operation Checkmate." The human fleet sprang into action, their movements a perfectly choreographed dance of destruction. Ships that the Zorixians had dismissed as primitive suddenly revealed hidden weapons and capabilities that caught the alien forces completely off guard. On a distant Alliance world, a group of refugees huddled in a shelter, listening to the battle unfold over a crackling radio. An old Maborian turned to his human companion, his gelatinous form quivering with emotion. I never thought I'd say this," he burbled, "but thank the stars for you humans." Back on the battlefield, the tide was turning. Zorixian ships, their crews demoralized and confused by weeks of psychological warfare, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. The once mighty armada began to crumble under the relentless human assault. Admiral Zorn, his bridge in chaos around him, couldn't believe his eyes. "Impossible," he raged. "These cowards, how could they defeat us?" As if in answer, his view screen crackled to life. The face of General Connor appeared, her eyes hard as steel. "Admiral Zorn," she said calmly, "on behalf of Earth and the Galactic Alliance, I advise you to surrender. Your superweapon is neutralized, your fleet is in disarray, and your empire is falling. End this now, before more lives are lost." Zorn snarled in defiance, but the fight had gone out of his eyes. Around him, his officers looked to him uncertainly. The mighty Zorixian empire teetered on the brink of collapse. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched the unfolding events in stunned silence. Grak turned to Ambassador Chen, his rocky features etched with newfound respect. "You humans," he rumbled, "are full of surprises." Chen nodded, her face serious. "We had to be. For too long, the galaxy saw us as cowards because we were cautious, but they never understood that our caution came from caring. About our people, our allies, and even our enemies. We don't rush into war. But when war comes to us, we face it with everything we have." As the last of the Zorixian ships surrendered, a cheer went up across the galaxy. The war that had seemed unwinnable just weeks ago had been turned on its head by the very species everyone had underestimated. But even as the celebrations began, the humans knew their work was far from over. There would be peace to negotiate, worlds to rebuild, and a new galactic order to shape. As Captain Sanchez looked out over the battlefield, now quiet save for the rescue ships darting back and forth, he allowed himself a small smile. "Not bad," he murmured, "for a bunch of cowards." The stars twinkled in response, as if acknowledging that the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of human timidity was over. A new era had begun, one where humanity's true strength would shine for all to see. The days following the decisive battle were a whirlwind of activity across the galaxy. As news of the Zorixian defeat spread, celebrations erupted on countless worlds. Species that had cowered in fear for months now danced in the streets, their joy tinged with disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. On Centauri Prime, the Galactic Alliance headquarters buzzed with activity. Representatives from every member species gathered in the Great Hall of Unity, their voices a cacophony of excitement and speculation. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Chen, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. Grak, the Petrosian delegate, shouldered his way through the crowd. "Ambassador," he rumbled, his rocky features set in an expression of grudging respect, "the Council has called for an emergency session. They're demanding to know more about these human capabilities you've been hiding." Chen's lips curved in a small smile. "Hiding, Grak? We've never hidden anything. You just never thought to ask." As they made their way to the council chamber, screens throughout the building displayed scenes from across the galaxy. Human ships, once dismissed as primitive, now worked alongside advanced Alliance vessels in cleanup and rescue operations. The adaptability and ingenuity of the human crews were on full display, earning nods of approval from even the most skeptical observers. In the council chamber, Chen faced a barrage of questions from the assembled delegates. "How did you develop such advanced stealth technology?" demanded the Maborian representative, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. "And those energy-dispersing satellites," added the Arcturian delegate, her luminous eyes wide with wonder. "The scientific principles behind them must be revolutionary." Chen held up a hand, quieting the room. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber, "what you've witnessed isn't the result of some hidden superweapon or secret technology. It's the product of something far more powerful: human creativity and determination." She paused, looking around the room. "For centuries, we humans fought amongst ourselves, pushing our technology and tactics to the limit. When we finally achieved peace and looked to the stars, we carried those lessons with us. We may have seemed cautious, even cowardly, but we were always preparing, not for conquest, but for the day we might need to defend our galactic family." A murmur of appreciation ran through the chamber. Chen continued, "Our strength lies not in any one weapon or strategy, but in our ability to adapt, to think outside the box, and to work together in the face of overwhelming odds. That's the gift we offer to the Alliance." As Chen spoke, scenes from the recent battle played on the chamber's main screen. Human ships executing maneuvers that defied conventional tactics, ground troops using ingenious low-tech solutions to overcome Zorixian defenses, and civilians repurposing everyday items into vital tools of resistance. The Arcturian delegate leaned forward, her voice filled with awe. It's remarkable. You turned your entire history of conflict into a force for good. Not just conflict, Chen corrected gently. Cooperation, innovation, and an unwavering spirit. That's the true strength of humanity. Meanwhile, light years away, the peace negotiations with the defeated Zorixians were underway. In a neutral space station orbiting a dead star, General Connor faced Admiral Zorn across a table. "Your terms are unexpectedly merciful," Zorn growled, his 4 eyes narrowed in suspicion. Connor's face remained impassive. "We're not here for revenge, Admiral. We want a lasting peace. Your people have much to offer the galaxy if you're willing to work with us instead of against us." Zorn was silent for a long moment. "We underestimated you humans," he said finally. "We saw your caution as weakness, your diplomacy as cowardice. We were wrong." "It's a common mistake," Connor replied, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "One we hope won't be repeated." As the negotiations continued, news of the peace talks spread across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of all species watched and waited, hardly daring to believe that the long nightmare of the Zorixian War might finally be coming to an end. Back on Earth, in the underground command center, Colonel Yuki stood before a wall of screens, each showing a different scene from across the galaxy. "It's really over, isn't it?" she said softly. Beside her, Ghost nodded, his usually stoic face showing a hint of emotion. "Thanks to you, Colonel. Operation Whisper was the turning point." Yuki shook her head. "It was all of us. Every human, every ally, working together. That's what made the difference." As they watched, the screen showed human ships and crews being welcomed as heroes on world after world. The respect and gratitude in the eyes of the alien species was unmistakable. The age of humanity being dismissed as cowards was over. A new era had begun, and humanity was ready to take its place as a leader in the Galactic Alliance. Not through force or fear, but through courage, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to protecting all sentient life. The galaxy would never be the same again. And for once, that change was something everyone could celebrate. 5 years had passed since the end of the Zorixian War, and the galaxy was a changed place. The Great Hall of Unity on Centauri Prime bustled with activity as delegates from across the Alliance gathered for a historic occasion. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Chen, now serving as the human representative to the newly formed Galactic Council. Her hair had a few more streaks of gray, but her eyes still sparkled with the same determination that had seen humanity through its darkest hour. "Order, please," called the Arcturian chair-being, its luminous form pulsing gently. "We are here today to ratify the Nova Pax, a new charter for galactic cooperation and mutual defense." As the chamber quieted, Chen looked around at the faces of her fellow delegates. There was Grak, the Petrosian, his rocky features set in a rare smile. Beside him sat Zilx, the Maborian, who now counted humans among his closest allies. And there, in a specially designed environment suit, was Admiral Zorn, the former Zorixian warlord turned peace advocate. "Before we begin," the chair-being continued, "I believe our human colleagues have prepared a special presentation." Chen nodded and stepped forward. With a wave of her hand, the chamber darkened, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room. "Esteemed colleagues," Chen began, her voice clear and strong. 5 years ago, we faced annihilation. Today, we stand on the brink of a new era of peace and prosperity. This is the story of how we got here." The hologram shifted, showing scenes from the war. The initial Zorixian assault, the alliance in disarray, and then humanity's stand. "We were called cowards," Chen narrated, as images of Earth's fleets and special forces flickered by. But what our enemies saw as cowardice was actually caution, preparation, and a deep respect for the sanctity of all life. The display showed Operation Trojan Horse, the psychological warfare campaigns, and the final decisive battle. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the chamber. We didn't win this war alone, Chen continued. Every species in this room played a crucial role. We simply showed that sometimes the most unexpected heroes are the ones who step up when all hope seems lost. The hologram faded, leaving the chamber in thoughtful silence. Then, from the back of the room, a voice called out, "Tell us, Ambassador, how did humans maintain hope in such dark times?" Chen smiled. "An excellent question. You see, throughout our history, humans have faced countless challenges. We've stood on the brink of destruction many times, but each time we found a way to pull through, to adapt, to overcome. It's not that we don't feel fear. We do. But we've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the face of fear." She paused, looking around the room. "And that's what we bring to the galaxy. Not unbeatable weapons or invincible armies, but an unshakable spirit, a willingness to stand up for what's right, no matter the odds." As Chen spoke, screens around the chamber lit up, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Human engineers working alongside Petrosian builders to reconstruct war-torn worlds. Human doctors collaborating with Maborian geneticists to cure diseases that had plagued species for millennia. And perhaps most surprisingly, human diplomats mediating disputes between long-standing rival species, bringing peace where there had only been conflict. The Nova Pax, Chen continued, is more than just a treaty. It's a promise that we will face the future together, combining the strengths of all our species to create a galaxy where every sentient being can thrive. She turned to Admiral Zorn, who nodded solemnly. "Even those who were once our enemies have a place in this new order. For if we've learned anything, it's that understanding and cooperation are far more powerful than fear and domination." As Chen concluded her speech, the chamber erupted in applause. Species that had once looked down on humans as primitive or cowardly now cheered them as visionaries and leaders. The Arcturian chair being raised its appendages for quiet. "Thank you, Ambassador Chen. I believe we are ready to vote on the ratification of the Nova Pax." One by one, the delegates cast their votes. The tension in the room was palpable as the final tally was counted. And then, the vote is unanimous, the chair being announced. "The Nova Pax is ratified. Let a new age of galactic cooperation begin." The chamber exploded in cheers and celebration. As delegates congratulated each other, Chen felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Grak, the Petrosian, looking at her with an expression that could only be described as awe. "You humans," he rumbled, shaking his rocky head. "Who would have thought that the cowards of the galaxy would end up saving us all?" Chen laughed. "Well, Grak, as we humans like to say, never judge a book by its cover." As the celebrations continued, Chen looked out at the sea of faces, human and alien alike. The galaxy had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, more united than ever before. And it had all started when the most unexpected heroes had stepped up. The future, Chen realized, was bright indeed, and humanity was ready to lead the way.